It was supposed to be an ordinary Labor Day afternoon in Hazel Park, Michigan, a day for family, for food on the grill, for rest before the week ahead. But inside one quiet home, tragedy was unfolding in a way no one could have imagined. Behind those walls lived 41-year-old Linda Hill and her 12-year-old son, Carty Jackson. Neighbors knew them as kind, familiar faces, a mother devoted to her children, and a boy who carried a bright spark of energy wherever he went. But that Monday, silence replaced their laughter. When police arrived around 4:15 p.m., what they found left even seasoned officers shaken. Linda and Carty, both gone, both victims of a brutal attack that showed no mercy. The news spread quickly through Hazel Park. Parents pulled their children closer. Neighbors stood on porches in disbelief. The idea that such darkness could enter a family home on a holiday meant for togetherness felt impossible to process. For Linda's loved ones, the loss was immediate and overwhelming. She was more than just a name in the news. She was a sister, a mother, a woman whose open heart was known to everyone who crossed her path. And for Carty, just 12 years old, life was only beginning. A boy described as sweet, playful, and full of potential. His future was stolen before he could even reach his teenage years. This wasn't just a crime. It was a rupture, a sudden, painful reminder of how fragile life can be, and how quickly the light of two lives can be extinguished. And it was only the beginning of a story that would send shockwaves through the community and leave a family searching for answers. Linda Hill was just 41 years old, a mother whose life was built around love for her children and the simple joys of family. To those who knew her best, she was generous, open-hearted, and always ready to lend a hand. Her laughter could fill a room, and her presence made people feel at home. She wasn't just a mom. She was the glue that held her family together. Beside her was her son, Carty Jackson, only 12 years old, a boy in the heart of his childhood. Carty loved video games, time with his siblings, and had a smile that could brighten anyone's day. His older brother, Dimitez, often described him as a younger version of me, a reflection of how deeply connected he was to his family. On September 1st, 2025, the world of this mother and son came crashing down. What began as a quiet Labor Day ended in horror when police discovered both Linda and Carty slain in their Hazel Park home. Their neck injuries revealed the shocking violence of the crime. Neighbors were stunned. Just hours earlier, the neighborhood had been alive with the sounds of the holiday, music, conversation, and children playing. Suddenly, Hazel Park was marked by grief, its peace shattered by a crime that felt impossible to comprehend. Family members rushed to the scene, clinging to one another as the reality sank in. They hadn't just lost two loved ones, they lost them in a way that was cruel, violent, and unthinkable. Grief quickly gave way to questions. Who could do this, and why? As the news spread, the community began to rally. Vigils were planned. Balloons were prepared in Linda's and Carty's favorite colors, and friends spoke out about who they were in life, not just how they died. Their story was no longer private grief. It became a community wound, one that everyone felt in some way. In those first 24 hours, the sense of urgency was palpable. While the family tried to process their devastating loss, police worked relentlessly to piece together what had happened. What they uncovered next would shock everyone and bring the case into even sharper focus. When the call came in to Hazel Park Police on the afternoon of September 1st, no one could have anticipated the scene they were about to walk into. It was just after 4:15 p.m. when officers arrived at the modest home, responding to a welfare check that would soon turn into one of the city's darkest moments. Inside, the quiet told its own story. Officers moved carefully through the rooms until they reached the heartbreaking discovery. 41-year-old Linda Hill and her son, 12-year-old Carty Jackson, lifeless inside their home. Both had suffered fatal injuries to the neck, a clear sign that this was not an accident, but a violent act that ended their lives. For first responders, it was a moment that weighed heavily. Even in their line of work, where tragedy is a daily possibility, finding a mother and child brutally slain was something that pierced through their professional armor. Hardened officers later admitted the scene was one that would stay with them forever. Neighbors watched from behind curtains and porches as flashing lights filled the street. The hum of police radios, the rustle of crime scene tape being unrolled, and the soft sobs of relatives who had gathered outside painted a picture of heartbreak that words could barely capture. The house, once a place of warmth and family memories, became a crime scene. Investigators photographed, collected evidence, and documented every detail, knowing that inside these walls lay the key to finding out who had done this. Word spread quickly through Hazel Park. Children who had played with Cardi were suddenly being asked questions too big for their age. Parents tried to explain the unexplainable, while others simply held their kids closer, grateful for their presence in a moment that reminded them of life's fragility. What was once a safe, familiar home had become the center of a double homicide investigation. And while the community stood in shock, police were already determined. They would not let Linda and Cardi's story end here. The search for answers had begun. From the very moment Linda Hill and Cardi Jackson were discovered, investigators knew time was critical. A mother and child had been brutally slain, and every second counted in the hunt for the person responsible. Hazel Park Police, alongside state authorities, launched an intensive investigation that stretched late into the night. Detectives worked tirelessly, combing through the home for clues and speaking to family and neighbors who might shed light on what had happened. It wasn't long before their attention turned to someone close, someone whose connection to Linda and Cardi raised immediate questions. Within just 24 hours, investigators had zeroed in on a suspect, a 43-year-old man from Redford Township. He wasn't a stranger lurking in the shadows. He was a family member, Linda Hill's own brother, Cardi's uncle. The possibility that a loved one could commit such an act made the case even more difficult to grasp. On September 2, 2025, armed with a search warrant, authorities moved swiftly. In Pontiac, Michigan, they located the suspect and took him into custody. The arrest happened without incident, but the shock of the revelation rippled through the family and the wider community. Police reassured residents that there was no wider danger to the public. This was not a random act of violence. It was something that struck at the very heart of one family. Yet the motive remained unclear, and investigators were careful not to speculate as they prepared their case. For the family, the arrest brought a complicated mix of emotions. Relief that someone had been caught was shadowed by the heartbreak of realizing that the accused was someone they once trusted, someone who had shared their lives. The betrayal cut deep.
Tragedy in Hazel Park. A mother and her 12-year-old son murdered.
Absolutely heartbreaking. That little boy would have and should have been getting ready for his second week of school in Hazel Park this morning. But late last night, police found him and his mom murdered inside of a home on Berdino Avenue near I-75 and 9 Mile. Police do not have a suspect in custody, but they do say they do not believe the public is in danger.
Well, overnight, 7 News Detroit spoke with the family member who offered a better understanding of what happened here. So let's get right to 7 News Detroit reporter Brittany Toulis, who's live in Hazel Park this morning with the unfolding investigation. And Brittany, what are you hearing from family members?
Keenan, Alicia, family members say the victim and her 12-year-old son were supposed to be at a Labor Day party and just waiting on someone to pick them up. A close family member who doesn't want to be identified right now says someone even at that party was on the phone with the victim when the person they believe is behind the double homicide walked in the victim's front door.
They was on the phone together while the situation was going down, but it went blank. Like she said, she didn't hear no screams or anything like that, but she heard the phone just go silent. He is 12, so like I said, young and innocent, didn't have nothing to do with this.
Instead of joining his middle school classmates after the Labor Day break, the Hazel Park School District sent families resources dealing with the student death, letting them know a 12-year-old boy and his mom were killed on the holiday. Family members say their last phone call with the female victim happened around 4 p.m. Monday. Shortly after 4, Hazel Park police say they found the mom and her 12-year-old son inside a home on Berdino Avenue just off of 9 Mile. They haven't said how the two died, only that they sustained injuries from apparent trauma. Police are investigating this as a double homicide, and they're developing suspect information, saying there's no public threat. Family members believe they know who's responsible, saying they even got a call from that person while police collected evidence combing through the home where the mom and her son were killed.
We got some suspicions. He called actually while we was here on the scene, basically saying he was shopping earlier and he didn't have no type of. He wasn't around. We all kept telling her to leave him alone because this just wasn't the right situation.
Now, this is all still early in the investigation, and if you have any information, you're asked to call the Hazel Park Police Department. And Hazel Park Schools also says they'll have support staff on hand for any students that need help coping with this tragedy. For now, live in Hazel Park, I'm Brittany Tulis for 7 News Detroit this morning. Keenan and Alicia.
Just such a traumatic and heartbreaking story. Brittany, thank you.
Still, the swift arrest was proof of the determination of law enforcement. In less than 2 days, they had turned grief into action, ensuring that the man believed to be responsible would face the justice system. It was a critical step forward in a case that had already shaken the community to its core. As the news of Linda Hill and her son Carty's death spread, Hazel Park was shaken to its core. What had once been a quiet neighborhood suddenly felt heavy with grief. Families gathered outside their homes, whispering in disbelief, while friends of the family clung to one another, struggling to process the loss. The community quickly came together to honor Linda and Carty's memory. Within days, a vigil was organized. Neighbors, classmates, and loved ones gathered under the evening sky to share in both sorrow and remembrance. People brought flowers, lit candles, and released balloons in purple and green, the favorite colors of Linda and her son. Each balloon that drifted upward felt like a message of love, a way of saying that though their lives had been cut short, their spirits would not be forgotten. Children stood with wide eyes, holding balloons for Carty, while adults wiped tears as they remembered the woman who had always been ready with a smile or a helping hand. Friends and relatives shared stories that painted a picture of who they really were. Linda was remembered as generous, open, and full of warmth, the kind of person who made others feel safe and valued. Carty was celebrated as playful and kind, a boy who loved his video games, school friends, and time with his big brother. Carty's older brother, Dimitez, found words that touched everyone present. He called Carty a younger version of me, capturing the closeness they shared and the devastating reality of losing someone so young, so full of promise. His words hung in the air, a mixture of love and heartbreak. The outpouring of support extended beyond family and friends. Community members who had never met Linda or Carty came forward, offering meals, donations, and prayers. Their presence was proof that tragedy can unite people, even in the darkest times. In that collective grief, Hazel Park found strength. The vigil wasn't just about mourning. It was about holding on to the light that Linda and Carty had brought into the world, and making sure that even in death, their names would be spoken with love. For Linda Hill's family, the loss was almost too much to bear. They weren't just grieving 2 lives, they were grappling with the cruel way those lives were taken. In a single moment, they lost a sister, a mother, a nephew, a child. And to make matters even more painful, the accused was someone they once trusted within their own family circle. Linda's sister, determined to honor her memory, launched a GoFundMe page to help cover the funeral costs. The response was overwhelming, with friends, neighbors, and even strangers contributing. Each donation carried a message of support, a way of saying, "You are not alone in this." The page became more than just a fundraiser. It became a virtual memorial filled with love and solidarity. For Carty's siblings, the absence of their brother was deeply felt. His laughter, his playful teasing, his presence in their everyday routines, gone in an instant. His older brother, Dimitez, carried the heaviest weight, mourning not just a sibling, but a best friend and mirror of himself. His words at the vigil revealed the raw pain of losing someone so young, yet so deeply cherished. At Carty School, the tragedy rippled through hallways and classrooms. Teachers and classmates were stunned to learn that the bright, kind boy they had just seen days earlier would never return. Grief counselors were brought in to support students, recognizing that no child should have to process such a devastating loss alone. Friends described Carty as the kid who always had a smile and someone who could make others laugh even on difficult days. His desk sat empty, a painful reminder to his classmates of how fragile life can be and how quickly someone they cared about could be taken. For teachers, it was a reminder that their students are more than just learners. They are children with hearts and families, and sometimes those families carry struggles unseen. The school responded with compassion, ensuring that students knew it was okay to feel sadness, confusion, and even anger in the wake of Cardi's death. In the weeks to come, both family and school community leaned on one another for strength. While nothing could bring Linda and Cardi back, the shared grief became a bridge of comfort, proving that even in the face of unimaginable loss, love and support can help carry people forward. With the arrest of Linda Hill's brother, the case now turns from the heartbreak of discovery to the slow, deliberate process of justice. Authorities confirmed that the 43-year-old suspect has been charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder, 1 for Linda and 1 for Cardi. These charges reflect the gravity of the crime and carry the possibility of life behind bars without parole. The first step will be his arraignment, where the charges will be formally read and a plea entered. For the family, seeing him in court will reopen wounds, but it is also the beginning of holding him accountable for the pain he caused. Each legal proceeding ahead will bring its own wave of emotions, sorrow, anger, and perhaps, in time, a measure of closure. Prosecutors have emphasized their commitment to seeking justice for Linda and Cardi. While the motive remains unclear, they have reassured the community that every piece of evidence gathered from the crime scene will be brought forward to ensure that the voices of a mother and her son are heard in court. For Hazel Park residents, this next phase is just as important as the investigation. They want to see justice served not only for the family, but also for the community that has been shaken by such a devastating crime. Trust in the legal process becomes a way for neighbors and loved ones to regain a sense of safety and order. At the same time, the family must prepare for a long journey. Trials can take months, even years, and every delay or development is another reminder of what they've lost. Yet, through it all, their love for Linda and Cardi will remain the guiding force that keeps them strong. This tragedy has also sparked wider conversations about family violence, about how to support grieving children, and about the importance of community unity in times of crisis. Linda and Cardi's story is more than just a case file. It is a call for awareness and compassion. As the legal process unfolds, one thing is certain. The memory of Linda Hill and Cardi Jackson will not fade. Their names will be carried forward in every courtroom hearing, in every vigil, and in every story told by those who love them. And while justice may take time, the determination to honor their lives will never waver. The story of Linda Hill and her son, Cardi Jackson, is not just a story of tragedy. It's a reminder of how fragile and precious life truly is. In one afternoon, a family lost its center, a school lost one of its brightest smiles, and a community was left searching for answers. Their absence will be felt in every holiday, every school day, and every quiet evening when memories resurface. What makes this loss even more heartbreaking is that it came from within their own family. The very bonds that are supposed to protect us were broken in the most unimaginable way. That truth cuts deeply, not only for Linda and Cardi's loved ones, but for anyone who hears their story. It is a reminder that even in our closest circles, compassion, awareness, and accountability matter. Yet, even in grief, there is light. The community of Hazel Park has shown that love can rise from pain. From candlelit vigils to balloons released in the sky, people have chosen to honor Linda and Cardi not by focusing on how their lives ended, but by remembering how they lived, full of kindness, warmth, and joy. As the legal process continues, the hope for justice stands strong. But beyond courtrooms and charges, their story will live on in the hearts of everyone who knew them. Linda will always be remembered as a giving soul, and Cardi will forever be the boy whose laughter could brighten a room. And so we close this chapter with reflection. Though tragedy took them too soon, love ensures that they are never truly gone. In every act of remembrance, in every embrace shared among those they left behind, Linda and Cardi's legacy continues, proving that even in the darkest moments, love endures.